you know, it's something as, you know, if you call us journalists, and in that role we would be journalists,
Oh,
you're never going to
100%.
have a person in there and not be able to ask those tough questions, or you wouldn't want to do it.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to skirt around.
Oh, don't ask me anything.
Yeah, don't ask me
Oh,
anything about anything.
well, then I have no interest in being
Right,
in here.
right.
But hey, I'd love to have Howard Lederer on the show. Oh, I'd love to have a 20-minute exclusive with Howard Lederer. Have him on Live at the Bike and we could talk about things. I'd love that. I can't see it happening, but hey.
There's actually another little thing that came out with Poker News today as well, which we're going to see Sunjet raise it up here with pocket queens to $50 over a straddle and a limp. And Jeff's got sixes here in the straddle. And seat number 3. Wow, Roy is calling $50 with Jack 3 of clubs. I think he feels like he's running hot.
Yeah, and that's the kind of hand, I mean, I might 4-bet. I might 3-bet that. You know? I might 3-bet with Jack 3.
Right.
Because it's an easy, you know, but I'm not calling with Jack 3. Now, obviously, it probably wouldn't have gotten through, but, you know, let's say Sunjet has ace Jack there instead of queens. You put a big 3-bet out there, it might actually get through. Maybe Jeff calls, who knows?
And Jeff has called here, and it's over to Ron. I mean, this is a super trouble hand. You can't call here with King 10, and you really probably shouldn't be limping in here with King 10 either from up front in a straddle pot, regardless of your stack. And we're going to see it 3 ways.
Well, you know what?
Oh, look at this flop. Top set versus flush draw versus overpair. Wow.
Well, you know what? If you're gonna call a $50 raise with Jack 3 of clubs, you can't ask for much better. And this is absolute action flop. Gut shot flush draw, gut shot straight draw with a flush draw, overpair against top set.
And this is probably going to go bet and either call, check raise, and maybe all-in call. Yeah, see, it goes bet call, a snap call. You know, he didn't raise with his flush draw and gutter. And I think Jeff's going to put it in.
And I imagine Sunjet, and then I imagine Sunjet's going to call this because it's Jeff especially. Although I don't think you're folding queens in this level anyway.
But the interesting part of this, Dave, is that Sunjin and Roy are super deep. I mean, Roy's got 1,000. Sunjin's got him covered, and that's huge for this game. And here comes the all-in. So when Sunjin makes the call, or is he going to overshove here, thinking that the guy behind him's on a draw? It's going to be interesting to see what he does here.
Well, how would you play this? Because this is an interesting spot. Because when Roy just calls there, you might put him on just a flush draw.
I think I would.
There it is.
I think I would.
Yeah,
I think I would move in. I mean, if there was a guy.
If you're Roy, though, I think Roy's got to call this.
I think you do have to call. I think you definitely have to call.
I mean, at worst, you figure any club is good or a 5 is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I would call here. I think that this hand played out the way that it should because you can't give Jeff credit for a hand that beats queens. If it was a tight player, you might be able to fold queens.
No, I'm
you know what I mean?
And I don't give credit. You know, even if Jeff has a higher flush draw than me, I'm not really scared about that because I can beat the other guy, and the other guy has way more money. Jeff's only got a couple $100.
Right. The only disaster you're in here is if Jeff has a made hand and Sunjit is like pushing with ace king of clubs. That would be the only disaster.
But the way the hand played out, he almost never has that.
Yeah. I mean, we have it as 1,090. Well, you know it's not because Roy's only got 985 here. We have Roy at 985 in his stack. Can we get a zoom in on the stack here? The stack is.
No, it's right. It's right.
So it's 985. So in actuality, it's like 1,800, 900 to call. I think he's getting about 2 to 1 here.
Yeah, and you're getting 2 to 1. You figure you got 12 outs.
Oh, I think you got to make this call.
You know, unfortunately, this is part of the variance of poker. You know, if you're going to call big raises with Jack 3 of clubs, this is the flop you're looking for. There's no way you're going to get rid of it.
I mean, does he see the gut shot? All right, he makes the call. I mean, that would be that would be a big mistake, I think, if he laid that down. And Jeff's going to have to dodge a lot of cards here. You can see he's only got about 59% equity.
8 of diamonds.
8. Needs to dodge
a queen, a club, or a 5.
Yeah, there you go. And the river's a
quads.
6. Jeff makes quads, but look at this. Roy is going to lose the huge side pot to Sunjit, though.
Yeah, unfortunately for Roy, even the quads don't bother him as much. If somehow he could have made a flush and it's still been, you know, like if it come out 8 of clubs and then the 6 of hearts, Roy would have done okay. Unfortunately for Roy, he is going to lose pretty much all of his money. Actually, I think he's going to get stacked here. Sunjit's actually going to win a ton, and so is Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, what we were saying was if you got a different type of guy in the big blind besides a guy that's given so much action like Jeff, I think a lot of times you're going to have to bet fold those queens to a guy calling behind you and then a check raise. Although this particular hand, the stack sizes were a little bit awkward. But in that scenario, I think that everybody played it pretty much right, with the exception of the fact that Roy probably shouldn't have just called pre-flop.
Yeah, especially in this level, by the way. I mean, obviously, Jeff notwithstanding, Jeff was giving a lot of action. Obviously, he's here to gamble. In this level, a lot of times players will overvalue jacks, 10s in that situation as well. And you've got to think, okay, my opponent is acting strong, but he could definitely have jacks. And you got to start thinking of hands that are in their range that you can still beat. I've seen players overplay 9s in that spot. So you got to be very aware of that. Nonetheless, though, Jeff wins the monster pot. He more than triples up. Soonjit wins a monster pot, and Roy gets felted.